Arutperumjothi Taniperum Karunai Arutperumjothi எல்லா உயிர்களும் இன்புற்று வாழ்க வள்ளல் மலரடி வாழ்க வாழ்க. So let me go ahead and stop. And what we can do is we were in the middle of the disciplines on karma organs, karmendriyangal, and maybe we'll start with that. So it gets continued, so the flow is also okay. So Perumal in one area says it clearly, other than these two jobs, when passing stools and when passing urine, got to think about God. So every other time, other than these two jobs, it is really important to focus on it. And why it is really important is what we are going to see. So the first discipline regarding it says that we have to, when passing urine or during the excretion of waste process, it has to be done in an appropriate manner. So the word appropriate is more important in here. And we were discussing about how we could be involved in a busy work and postpone what we are supposed to do when the nature calls. It could be either working in computer, or it could be you could be sleeping at night and might feel lazy. That happens sometime. Or you might be watching TV, or you might be doing some work and trying to control it. So the idea behind is giving a top priority for this is more important, and the rest of it can wait. So that is the main idea in here. The second point aligns, the second discipline, what Perumal says for Indriya Olukam, aligns with the first point. So if there is difficulty in passing stools, there are ideas which has been given to us, which can be followed. The first one is, and there might be difficulty because of weather issues, or heat in the body can make the stools harder as well. So let's look at what are the methods which has been prescribed to us. So the first one is Aushadham. Aushadham is through herbals. We discussed about this one too. Kadukai. So Kadukai is which pretty much everybody uses and everybody knows about it, called as also Hathikai in Hindi. One thing which the main idea here is to take the seeds out of Kadukai, to buy unseeded Kadukai, and then powder it and consume it. Or you can find unseeded powder if possible, and then consume it with hot water. And that's the main important thing too, the hot water. So depending on what we consume with, the effect changes in here. So cold water creates an opposite reaction, and hot water is what is prescribed in here. So that will help to loosen up the stools during the excretion process. So after Aushadham, second one is Baudiga Moolam. So Baudiga Moolam is through physical substances. People are using it nowadays as well. So this is using what's called as enema cans, where they fill saline or the saline water, and there is a protuberant tube which enema passes in, and the Siddhas in olden days had used lotus stem for it. That is just an information, but I'm not sure how this is being used, as it's been used pretty much around the medical field for some during some procedures. They have to clear the bowel to make sure that the procedure goes well. So that is why it's been used. But I've seen people using it normally too. I'm sure you can Google it or find stuff there. So the third one is what's called as Sarabedam. Sarabedam is through breathing. So now most of us are aware of pranayama in here. So breathing through the left nostril, through the right nostril and stuff. So Sarabedam is having the breath, mostly the domination of breath has to be in the right nostril. So we have Ida, Pingala. Ida is the left, Pingala is the right, or it's called as also Chandiran, Suryan, multiple different ways of saying it. But how do we get the breath to dominate on the right for the most part? And if you observe carefully, the breath changes often. Sometimes the domination will be on the left. Sometimes the domination will be on the right as well. So how do we get it on the right? The easiest way is to lie down sideways, facing left side. So you lie down in the left side for some time, and if you notice, automatically the breath will start getting in your left, right. So if it was in the left, automatically it will start moving to the right actually. So you can feel it. You can actually now you can actually have your fingers in next to your nose and feel like how it is. That's the easiest method to see. But the left side works pretty efficient, pretty good. It might take minutes. Depends on person. But it is also said people who are good in pranayama can control breath on their right automatically just by their thought, because thought has the power to control the breath too. And not sure if I'm not sure how many of us has seen old movies where rishis and munis used to carry this stick, what they keep on the left side, so they keep their arms raised, and that is also basically used for controlling the breath as well, so that your breath actually is in the right side. So lying on the left side and having the breath more towards the right side does helps this process as well. And the next one is what's called as Astasparisam. I have a snapshot of what it is, because hastam is hand and sparisam is through touch. So with Astaparisam, Perumal suggests that during the excretion process, we take the right hand and keep it on the lower abdomen, press it on the lower abdomen, and this is an approximate point, and it's also called as adivaire. Just so use your right hand and in the lower abdomen, just below the lower rib cage. So just below the rib cage and above the hip bone. So just below the rib cage and above the hip bone at the time of excretion process. So during the process, it is very easy to feel. So we just have to focus, and I'm sure it will be in your experience. So at that time, if you press it gently, you will start feeling how you will start feeling like um, how smooth that excretion process is, and it's subtle to explain. It's subtle to explain, but easier to feel. So the next one, what is specified is Mulanga Pranava Dhyanam. So Mulanga Pranava Dhyanam is focusing our mind and attention. Again, it aligns with the first point, around the area of Mooladhara. So try to focus that area once we start to have the once we start to have the feel for it. So that is through the Mulanga Pranava Dhyanam. So these are the 5 methods which has been prescribed during the excretion process, which helps to get the stools out completely. So let's go ahead and get back to where we left with our vegetables. So now let's talk about brinjal. So brinjal, or called as nat katrikai, what we are referring here is the smaller brinjal in here, not the eggplants, not the huge watermelon-sized eggplants which we are getting these days. So these brinjal is another vegetable which has been suggested. It's very good for removing toxins in the body. Some common feedback on this brinjal is it can cause skin rashes, but for some people, but that is due to the process of removing toxins. So if you're allergic, due to some allergy, I think people have exhibited some kind of skin rashes. But this brinjal is very good for removing the toxins in the body. But what we are talking here is about the small-sized country brinjals or small brinjals, and not the bigger eggplants what everybody is using these days. And mostly for all the vegetables, consumption during when taking vegetables at the time of when it's tender is more important. Most of the time we do not have options if you're outside the country, but tender vegetables are said to have more better properties than than the vegetables getting older. So the next one is winter melon. Winter melon is another vegetable which has been subscribed and which has been ignored these days. It's been said to have a highly pranic vegetable, which is also very good and exfoliates and removes toxins. So most of these vegetables are very good. And one common misconception is that it's only herbs which actually helps our body, but it's not just herbs. Vegetable plays an equally important role when taken care in an appropriate manner, and when cooked correctly as well, and when using the right vegetable. Most of the time when we are using when we go over the list, you'll see that all these are traditional country vegetables which we had used before. Drumstick, one of the underrated trees, which we are going to see in a little bit detail on the leaves, how much nutritional value those leaves are, which is called as Moringa in Tamil. We'll go over that in detail. Broad beans. Broad beans is avarakai, and that's the picture which is on the upper right corner. Ridge gourd. Ridge gourd is peerkanga, which has ridges, and we normally remove the ridges, and some people even use those skin for making some curries as well. Cluster beans. Cluster beans is on the lower right corner. So they are very small, tiny or teeny beans, which are very lean as well. Their usage have gone down recently, but they're very good for diabetes. And since diabetes is pretty common, these vegetables help a lot. But especially rich gourd is said to have more properties which can control diabetes. Or not rich gourd, sorry, cluster beans. And then snake gourd. Snake gourd is podalangai. And then what's called as Thiruvanamalai. So Thiruvanamalai is a herb which we saw in the first session in pretty detail, and that plant gives yields a fruit called as Thiruvanamalai, and I find it's also called as purple fruited pea eggplant, and that's the picture up here, the red color small berry like picture. Not sure why it's named as that. Maybe it's in the size of pea. It's a small fruit. Maybe that's why it's called as purple fruit pea eggplant, but it's the Thiruvanamalai what we had seen before. So all these vegetables are pretty much the traditional vegetables which we know of, or which our ancestors used to take on a daily basis. So even though we have lots of other vegetables, these vegetables provide more unique properties, and recommended by Perumal in Nitya Volkam, or even when giving some prescriptions for some medication. So what we have done is basically combined everything together. But we'll actually touch also this subject a little bit even before proceeding further. So the recommendation here is to cook this curry with more of peppercorns and cumin. So peppercorns have lots of unique properties than green chilies. Peppercorns is has been said by so many siddhas. As one siddha has said that you can take peppercorns and go to your enemy's house itself, meaning like if you're being poisoned, it has the potential to remove the poison from the food source too. So peppercorns is very important. Also cumin as well. Siragam. Siragam is also having lots of properties, which is also more important as well. But these vegetables, I mean, we have to touch on the adulteration of food, and what are the known methods, or how we can treat it too. So before even going to adulteration, I want to mention some of the stuff what you might consume on a daily basis, like a tea. Tea, for instance, has more pesticides than whatever you can think of. So the normal tea, what you sip, what's your first morning drink, has more pesticides, and just make sure that you are drinking the right one. Note that it is also very tough to grow tea leaves without applying pesticides. So it's a huge topic. There are lots of controversies on pesticides, and on the type of pesticides. There are also bystanders, legal pesticides allowed based on different countries too. It is accepted. So for instance, tea you can have like more than 35 5+, I think, around that lines by the Indian government to be used to protect the tea plants. So that's the allowable number of chemicals. The chemicals might differ from country to countries. So US or European Union might say, oh, you know what, these kind of pesticides are not allowed, but some other country might say, oh, these kind of pesticides are allowed. So it differs from place to place, but the standards let go of pesticide as well. Now you can say organic. Organic is good; it's better. They can't use synthetic or hard pesticides, but organic pesticides, there is a list which is still allowed as well. So that's something which to be considerate of. And also, what's the next one which I want to say is for curries, I think most of the people, even though peppercorns, cumin is used, some of the ingredients for curries which we used common are also cinnamon. So cinnamon gives a nice flavor. It has lots of medical properties. But note, the cinnamon what we are using is not the traditional one. It's called as cassia cinnamon. So the traditional cinnamon has a different flavor, is more fragile. You can break with your hands very easily. You can see what they would have done is it won't just form a single layer. It is in multiple layers. You can look at it later. It's also called, you can look like Ceylon cinnamon or Sri Lankan cinnamon, because that traditionally has been cultivated in Sri Lanka and in southern part of India. So that is the traditional cinnamon. And whatever cinnamon 98, maybe even 99%, I'm being very conservative in here. 99% is definitely conservative for cinnamon. And what we are consuming is called as cassia. Cassia, its source is different. So cardamom. Cardamom is something which I think which we would put all these stuff in kuruma. I'm just thinking about what we would use for the most part. And cardamom also has more pesticides because it attracts lots of insects, right? That's the reason why they have to put pesticides. So I just want to bring that to your notice. So, and also make sure that sometimes pesticides on vegetables are also possible, like what we had seen, and we may want to put that in salt water or tamarind water, so it has that acid and it has the properties to remove some of the pesticides. It's best. So that's a common practice, I think, which everybody is following. So the best is not to consume it, but the worst case, if we have to do it, use whatever we can with salt water or tamarind water, and for 30 minutes or 15 minutes, and so that it gets rid of a lot, and we should be happy with what we have. There's also a new trend happening. Not sure how many people know this. Lots of people have started cultivating their own vegetable, health conscious people. People who are very rich or in the upper class, they started getting farms and they started cultivating as much vegetables as possible. And also people cultivating using a home garden or terrace garden. So this kind of movement have also started growing because there is no other way to make sure that things are better now than to do it ourselves. It's unfortunate, but that is the truth these days. So just be cautious on some of these things which has been happening here, and use your own judgment. So let's go ahead and look at all the spinach types. So greens. So spinach, which everybody agrees and which everybody thinks for the most part provides medical value and is good for the health. So it's not just spinach; it's also vegetables too. So that's the first main point. And with spinach, we had gone in detail on how karislangani is very important for the longevity of the body. Like it's a kaya sati muligai. Same thing with Thiruvanamalai too. We went in details on Thiruvanamalai as well. So that's the second picture what you are seeing on the right side. So Thiruvanamalai is good for attention, and it eases the mind as well. So Puliyarai, we did not touch Puliyarai though. So Puliyarai is another Kaya Siddhi Muligai which Perumal suggests. Puliyarai has this one which can control the heat in the body as well, because most of the herbs suggested by Perumal are something which gives heat to the body, like Karislangani, Thiruvanamalai, produce lots of heat in the body. Puliyarai kind of balances it out. So it balances it out. So when you get a lot of heat, it's better to consume Puliyarai. And in Nitya Karma Vidhi, or in day-to-day discipline, Perumal suggests if it's possible to consume Puliyarai on a daily basis, it is better to consume Puliyarai. That's the recommendation, and it's also very good for the hemorrhoids, what's called as piles too. So Puliyarai is also good for piles. And this is the third one, the third snapshot. What we are seeing is Puliyarai. It's a three-leaf clover. That's what's called locally in here in United States. It's said as a weed as well. It's considered as a weed. Weed is something which we really don't need. That's how it's been treated, at least in US. When I was showing this to my kids, they were like, these are weeds. We don't want to consume, because these things grow on the roads too here. And they have the tendency to grow in the shade and in wet areas. So these are the areas which Puliyarai will grow, but you might find this thing anywhere in shady areas. It grows. You might have not noticed it. You might have stamped on it. You might have walked on it, but it is there somewhere. If you're in the United States, you just have to look for it. And I think even in Canada, it should be there, and you will find Puliyarai pretty common. It has the one thing I want to mention is it has the sour taste to it. So this could be also used as a substitute for tamarind, and we know that tamarind is also not good for health as well. So it would be a good substitute if you can find abundant Puliyarai in your area. So the next one is Munnai Kirai. I might have tried it back when I was in India, but here there is no chance. Ponangani. Ponangani is another good green which is suggested for eyes, as it has lots of vitamin A because of the usage of all the laptops and iPads and iPhones and stuff like that. It's better to consume that a lot, and it's also being used to marinate in oil, so it can be applied to the head and cools down the body. So it's used in those processes as well. So Ponangani is another good one, and Pasalai Kira is the last snapshot in here. So there are two kinds of Pasalai. It's pretty hard, and it can sustain harsh weather. I'm not sure about the snow, but South Florida weather it can take very easily. A red pasalai, there's red pasalai where you might see a red color stem, and there is also a green pasalai. So this is also available in Indian grocery stores in here. So I'm sure it should be available on the other side of the world as well. So this is the list which Perumal suggests, and the last one, but not the least, is the drumstick leaves, which is Murunga. I have the botanical name next to it, so in case if you need to find it, if you need to grow it, you can always go by the botanical name and try to Google it and try to find the seeds or plants for it. So this drumstick leaves is one underused leaf which we have taken it for granted. It's a very easy plant to grow. There are lots of organizations trying to promote just this Murunga leaves, and also Murunga leaves is sold as capsules these days. It's actually a multivitamin capsule. It has the power of multivitamin capsule, and if you look at the nutrients of what it possesses, it is pretty amazing. You can see it has 7 times the amount of vitamin C in oranges, 4 times the amount of vitamin A in carrots, 4 times the amount of calcium in milk, 4 times potassium in 3 times potassium in banana, and 2 times of protein. So it basically exceeds the supply of what is needed in multiple fruits and vegetables very easily. It's your multivitamin supplement is right in here. Instead of buying a multivitamin or a multivitamin tablet, you can go for the leaves. Oh, one good point to note in here is studies have indicated that even dry leaves are more beneficial compared with green leaves. So if you're in an area where you can't find green leaves, dry leaves are good as well. You can grow the plant, dry it in summer and consume it in winter. So that is also okay. And in some cases, they seem to be more beneficial. What we also do is we actually remove the leaves, use the twigs for doing vegetable stocks as well. So the twigs are nothing but in the picture in there, the twigs which holds the leaves. So that's what we use for spinach, right? For doing spinach curry. So those twigs can be used for vegetable stock, which is the base for your soup. So what's called as a vegetable stock, vegetable stock is basically a soup base. So to do a soup base, these twigs, Murunga twigs, are very effective because they are good in case if you are having like arthritis, having issues with pain in the body, knees and stuff like that. They provide great value. The tree as a whole actually is abundant value. Even the gums from it, I know, has some value as per Siddha. So it's like a full end-to-end useful tree. Most of them are, but this is something which we definitely want to cherish and use because this one we get across the globe very easily. Even in Africa and South America, they have Moringa trees. We have in our home in US, and I'd seen in lots of houses in US as well. So we grow this lot in here. So that is definitely That's definitely a good thing. So, but this is something which uh, which we want to think. It's it's not being contradictory to what we are going to talk, because what we are talking is like healthy food, how we can consume, and what are the best ways to eat and stuff like that. But for a serious aspirant who wants to get to a different stage in a spiritual goal, or it's really goal to more than goal, it is the food consumption. There is a discipline on food consumption too, which we saw in the first session. I just want to remind that it is about consuming food not too much because of the taste of the food, or we don't want to consume less as well because we do not like the food as well. So both of them has to be avoided, and it has to be balanced in such a way that we consume food, the right amount of food. So in Thiruvarudpa, in Ava Aruttal, Ava Aruttal means getting rid of desires on food. There is this verse on food. It's called, it said, சோற்றிலே விருப்பம் சூழ்ந்திடில் ஒருவன் தன்னுள் தவம் எல்லாம் சுருங்கி ஆற்றிலே கரைந்த புலியெனப் போம். So what it means is, if one cannot let go the desire of food, the meditation, the whatever we have gained using the meditation, that will shrink like a tamarind in the river water. So we put tamarind, what we use for cooking, right? And then we put it in the river water. What happens? It would just vanish. It would go so fast. So this is a verse which Perumal says in how to about like the desires, how to control the desires, or how to get rid of how to not getting rid of completely, but how to control your desires in food. There are lots of verses in here, and this one was pretty good. Just want to mention that.